Sunday turns to Monday. It is Memorial Day weekend. No holiday here, though. Brandon Cruz, Lily's out, Tim Van Voorn. We appreciate you joining us tonight. We have a good show straight ahead for you. Here's what's on our starting lineup. The Packers in voluntary workouts these days, the OTAs. All eyes are on Jordan Love and his impending contract. The Brewers trying to take care of business on the road against subpar competition. Pat Murphy, speaking of the Brewers, makes us say what? We look ahead to Monday's homecoming of Craig Counsell, and we hop on the tractor for this week's high school hotshot.
Yeah, I mean, that's just something that I've always done. Trying to be here, get the reps in, get to working with the guys, and just start building that chemistry and getting ready for the season. I don't really know what's going on, but we'll see. But yeah, I'm not going to get into too much contract stuff.
That was Jordan Love's stance all the way around the other day up in Green Bay talking about it. He's in good spirits, but he says, I'm not really going to talk much about this. Would you show up and play? Would you go to training camp? Would you play this season without a contract? Well, don't know. Don't know what that's going to be. Obviously well advised by his agent. Let's get right to the Love contract. I'll start with you, Brandon. We hear the number $50 million a year thrown out there. Will it be that?
I think it has to be. I think with the way this league is going and with the way he performed last season with so much on the line for the Packers and moving them so much forward, more forward than probably expected, I do have to believe that that money's going to be there because they can't start over. This is their guy. You have to bite the bullet. You have to be able to be willing to spend that money, and that's where this league is gone. All the big money goes to quarterbacks, then you have to figure it out after that. Jordan Love has earned it. He has proven that he is their guy that they're banking on, so they need to bank on him.
So do you just do it, Lily? Do you just sign this thing today and move it forward?
I think if it was that easy, they would be done by now, right? So just a lot of numbers to work out, but I would assume that the Packers want to get something done either before training camp or obviously before the regular season does begin. So time is ticking. They have, they still have time, but again, I think both sides want to get a deal done so Jordan Love can say, hey, I'm comfortable playing and let's go. But, to his credit, he's showing up to OTAs. He's, taking all the reps, and there you look at the numbers that these quarterbacks are garnering every single year. And, Jared Goff kind of reset that market. You see Joe Burrow. So I think, like Brandon said, I do think that $50 million mark per year will be kind of the benchmark for Jordan Love. And again, you certainly earned it. But I think, if they wanted to get this done soon, they would. But I don't think there's any sort of acrimony on any side. I think both sides are still working together very well to get this done. But hopefully we're going to hear about a Jordan Love extension sooner rather than later.
Certain accomplishments with those guys there on the list. But Kyler Murray, Jordan Love's Kyler Murray, say at this stage of his career. Spin your Wayback Machine, Lily. A year ago, can you believe we were talking about this with Jordan Love?
No, because again, we were talking about coming into last season, right? The uncertainty. You move on from Aaron Rodgers. What do you get with Jordan Love? He's been behind Rodgers for 3 seasons. Is he going to be the next Hall of Fame quarterback for Green Bay? And there was kind of that trepidation for 5 to 6 weeks. It's just 5 to 6 weeks that Packers fans had to wonder, what is our starting quarterback situation? And then Love really turns things around in the tail end of the season and proves he is that guy who wants to be the next franchise quarterback for Green Bay. So I think you kind of really turn things around, and fans should be excited with what they have in Jordan Love. I think another year under his belt as a starter will prove wonders for him with a team that he's already gotten very familiar with in terms of his skill players as well. So things are trending in the right direction, but I'm very pleasantly surprised that we're talking about Jordan Love potentially getting that $50 million plus contract extension this offseason.
Money is up, expectations way up for sure. Rehab visits way up if you have a pectoral injury. You got Matt Fleur's got a pectoral injury. Zach Tom's got a pectoral injury. Tucker Kraft's got a pectoral injury. They all say it's just a coincidence. Christian Watson has had hamstring injuries, though, and one of the big talk topics this year, Brandon, is his off-season evaluation and a determination that maybe his right side and left side weren't the same, so he's training differently now. How important is Christian Watson to this operation?
I think it's very important, and I think it's very intuitive of him to go to the University of Wisconsin to figure out what could be wrong there and why it continues to happen, and for them to be able to see that there is a difference in the way his legs are built. It shows that, okay, you can work on this and try to minimize that, and maybe that will make for a healthier 2024. And I think it's something he has to do just to be able to stay on the field, because in his first 2 seasons we've seen that that's been a big problem. So to me, he's taking the right approach, and hopefully for him, hopefully for the Packers, that means a very healthy season this coming year.
And the forgotten man, Eric Stokes, the cornerback, has done the same thing. He's had his own hamstring injuries. Rookies and veterans mixing at OTAs. It's May. Is it important?
Huge. I think this is where you look at guys bonding. You look at teams coming together, and this is how you do it. I mean, how many times are we talking about teams having fun, enjoying one another, being a solid group, especially during tough times? This is where that's all built. And you can say in years past, when it was an Aaron Rodgers team, those guys already knew each other. They didn't need to do so much, and there wasn't so much of a reliance on younger players. But now with this team, they're still all so new, and they're all still trying to get to know each other and still having to go through the ups and downs together. This is where that starts, and this is where they know they can count on somebody come October, November, December, because of the work they put in May, June, and July.
Brandon mentioned Aaron Rodgers. It was a different feel when you went to OTAs with all those veterans. I can attest to that. It's literally a different feel up there, Lily, with all these young guys and all this speed and all this pushing for playing time. Will that be the theme that we see go into the games that count?
I think so. I think there's an infusion of youth throughout the NFL, but especially in Green Bay, and we've seen kind of these guys grow up together, and that's what they're going to have to do again with this young rookie class as well. But I think just the important thing to note, though, is just the amount of players that were present for OTAs, right? It was kind of a different era under Aaron Rodgers, and granted that was a more veteran-laden team, but these young guys want to come in, they want to get to know each other, and there's a new defensive coordinator as well, so there's added incentive to really get in there, know everybody, kind of learn the playbook even more, and be present for OTAs. And I think the infusion of youth really kind of will be trending this year for Green Bay. But it's just fun to watch, though, because, like, Tim, Brandon, we've all covered this team for quite some time, and it's just kind of a different feel when the oldest guys are in their mid-20s versus 30s, early 30s.
Yeah, Preston Smith cranking around.
Right.
Contrast to everybody else there. I'll tell you, it's a contrast too, though. There's a divisional dogfight now. It used to be, the Packers were at the top. It is a whole different deal. A lot of situations to be determined as the football season plays out.
I want to answer every question you guys direct towards me, but I just not going to address like road trip by road trip, series by series. Today we competed. We were right there till the end. That's what I worry about. And we've been competing. We had very few lapses on this long road trip. We had very few lapses. We're a very young team. We're a very banged up team. And I love the team. I love what they do. I love what they represent. I love how they come to play. I love our leadership.
You could go on and on and on, it seems, as though Pat Murphy there managing the Brewers into a very good position here as we head toward the end of May. We've talked about whether that's a surprise or not. What's the key to you? Let's pick out a key on each side. I'll start with you. Why is this team where it is?
They're just able to kind of nickel and dime and find ways to win. I think that's really impressive with a team that is dealing with a lot of injuries. They are finding ways to win. But I think the most important thing is that they have a guy named William Contreras who's been so consistent for Milwaukee in terms of just being able to hit at the plate, and obviously what he's been able to do behind the plate as well. But I think how important it is for this team is just to find ways to win. They're kind of doing it with a pitching staff, by committee, so to speak, and their bullpen as well without Devin Williams. But I think the constant you have is William Contreras knowing that he is able to kind of at least put a run on the board on a night-to-night basis, and that's fun to watch. But I think this team, coming into the season, I was thinking maybe 1-2 with the Cubs, and that's still the case right now. But I think they've really impressed me with how they've been able to handle themselves and get wins despite being so injured.
Different faces almost every night, Brandon.
Yeah, and to me, the key is the connectivity. I mean, we talk about this, I just said it about the Packers and how they're trying to do that right now with these OTAs. The Brewers did that in spring training, and it's carried over here into the season, despite all the injuries, despite all the new faces that keep coming up and being thrown out there. These guys are still connected, and a lot of that, I think, has to do with Pat Murphy. You heard how he talks about this team. He talks about how much he just loves these guys and loves being around them. I think that's reciprocal, and I think that's one of the things that brings these guys to the park every day, wanting to play, wanting to win, and wanting to do it for one another. And it doesn't matter who's up there on the mound. It doesn't matter who's at the plate at the time. Each guy is pulling for each other, the other guy, and when they're all together, they find a way to win. And sure, they go 4-5 on this road trip, but it's 3 cities, it's over 10 days, and they were able to do it through injuries, and they didn't lose any ground really in their division. I mean, everything is still looking good for them, and I do have to believe it's the way they pull for each other and they have fun. We talk about that with this team for years now. When they look like they're having fun, they win or do well and avoid really big slumps.
You know, that's the narrative for sure. It becomes part of the perception, Lily. It was a losing road trip, for goodness sakes. In my mind, the Miami segment was poor because they gave away a couple of games there against a bad team, but they don't really feel like losers to me against Houston and Boston.
Yeah, you know, they play the good teams well, and they kind of struggle against teams that you would expect them to beat. It's an interesting narrative, right? You know, this Brewers team goes into a Miami series where they're facing pitchers with really high ERAs, and they kind of get shut out or they don't hit well, and then you face, you know, a team with a really good pitcher, and then all of a sudden they're putting up runs on the board. They're, you know, playing a lot of good small ball. So it's fascinating to see, but, you know, you're seeing them hang with teams like Houston and Boston, and they won the series against the Red Sox, but it's a little discouraging, though, when you do go into a series like the Marlins and you can't win that one, and you do waste a gem of a performance by Freddie Peralta as well. So maybe, you know, things to improve on as the year goes on, that you want to be able to compete with the good teams, but you also want to beat the teams you should be able to beat.
And they're willing to bunt, Brandon.
They-
And that
they
set
are.
everything off to
I
me.
mean, how often now are you looking at this guy going, is he going to lay one down right here for a hit?
Chris
Or-
Martin
Yeah.
doesn't want you to
He
No,
don't
you
like
can't
it.
do it to him.
Right,
You can't
right.
do it to him.
Absolutely.
But these guys don't forget, or they don't remember yesterday. They forget about these losses. Now they're looking ahead, and that's what matters.
Yeah, and if you look at what happened because of we're joking around with Chris Martin, but it kind of touched things off. Quentin Berry is out there, the first base coach. It's to me, the Brewers are not pushovers. They're saying we're legit.
Yeah, they got into 4 scuffles so far, and it's still so early in the year. So this is a team that's not going to lay down to anybody, and I think it kind of starts with their manager, Pat Murphy. They look to him, and he's not backing down, and this team isn't either.
And it's been against the American League
I
East
know.
teams.
Yeah,
That's
3 of
all.
those fights,
Yeah,
or
fascinating.
dust-ups, if you will. Pugnacious Pat and the Brewers. All right, for the 6th straight season, Giannis Antetokounmpo, NBA first team. He's an all-NBA performer, 30 points or more in more than half of his games this season. A career-high 64 points against the Pacers downtown. You remember that night? Giannis the only Buck on the first, second, or third teams. Wisconsin represented elsewhere, though, just 3 years removed from playing high school basketball at St. John's Military Academy. Brandon Podziemski, NBA's all-rookie first team. Way to go, Brandon. The former Wisconsin Mr. Basketball was in quite a few games for the Warriors this season. He started quite a few games, averaged almost 10 points per game. We'll continue our Brewers discussion, speaking of guys from around Wisconsin, when we come back on the Blitz.
Do I vote? I don't even know if I vote for her.
You really want to ask that question out of the gate?
I just like getting people's attention with something.
My significant other thinks he's sexy, so.
Wow. That was interesting. Was that Taylor Swift?
I'll probably call him to see how he's doing, if he needs anything. Stop to the store to him. He's going to have a late night. If he needs anything, I'll stop to the store and get him a sandwich or something or whatever, you know, whatever he wants. Or,
That's nice.
yeah, I mean, we're friends, so be a good host to him. I'm right up the road from him here in Chicago. He can stay at the place.
How about that? Pat Murphy looking out for Craig Counsell in his return to Milwaukee on Monday as they open up a 4-game series with the Cubs. Now, this has already been, the two teams have met each other in Chicago at the beginning of the month. But, Lily, you're going to the game tomorrow. What are you expecting for Craig Counsell's return to Milwaukee?
I'm intrigued to see the amount of boos or the cheers that happens when the lineups do get introduced in Craig Counsell's name, and I'm wondering kind of what the reception will be from Brewers fans and what that atmosphere will be like inside American Family Field, because yeah, they started out the year at Wrigley Field, but it's just a different field when Craig Counsell, he's from Wisconsin, comes back home to play in Milwaukee as the manager of the Chicago Cubs. So I'm just kind of wondering about the reception, but I think, you know, he talked about it earlier in Chicago. You know, they're still friendly. You know, these guys just want to win. It's just baseball. But, you know, you kind of have to wonder how he's going to feel when he does step onto the field for the first time.
I spent a lot of this weekend at Craig Counsell Park in Whitefish Bay and Craig Counsell Field in Whitefish Bay. You've talked to him recently. What is he thinking about this? Is he playing it down like Craig Counsell normally would?
You know, I did speak with him Thursday down at Wrigley Field, and I said, well, what's it going to be like to walk to that visitors clubhouse after all those years walking to the home clubhouse at Miller Park and then American Family Field? He said, longer. It's a good answer, because really that's what it is. I think by now Cub fans are well aware that Craig Counsell's the Cubs manager, and Brewer fans are well aware that Pat Murphy is the Brewers manager. So I think you pointed out very accurately, Brandon, if this had been the first situation between these two teams, it would have been a bigger deal. It's going to be big for fans, but I think the uniform personnel, it's the next series, really.
And then after that, do we ever talk about this anymore? I mean, maybe the playoffs if they meet? I mean, is there any other time we talk about it?
Yeah, it's a good question because you're right. They're probably going to battle for a while here. They could be meeting in the playoffs, and then, of course, the story would come back out. You know, if the Brewers are to finish ahead of the Cubs, you know what the narrative's going to be then? Well, a lot of people say, fine, you know what I mean, on the Milwaukee side of things. So baseball will ultimately determine the way this story plays out because baseball always does such a long season. That's the biggest storyteller.
Yeah, we'll see. Right now, the Brewers are ahead of the Cubs, but this could all change this week, and that's what makes it so interesting because every day we have a baseball game, and on Monday it's the Brewers and the Cubs. Well, speaking of baseball, Whitewater Baseball has advanced to the Division III College World Series. The Warhawks earning one of the 8 spots after knocking off Lacrosse in the Super Regional on Saturday by sweeping a doubleheader. Whitewater will face Randolph-Macon College on Friday in their opener in Ohio. And for the second year in a row, the Admirals are headed to the Western Conference Finals. Milwaukee shut out Grand Rapids 2-0 in Game 5 Sunday inside of Panther Arena. Troy Grosnick stopped all 30 shots he faced. So next up for the Ads is Coachella Valley, the same team that ended Milwaukee's playoff run last season in the Western Conference Final. Game 1 scheduled for Wednesday in California. Our high school hotshot, though, is coming up next.
Welcome back. He's always enjoyed tinkering with Legos and designing robotics. And now a passion instilled by his grandfather has him continuing a legacy of preservation. Here's this week's Fox 6 High School Hotshot.
My name is Noah Roberts. I'm a sophomore at Dodgeland High School, and I'm on the robotics team. This past year, we had a team of 3. So we design the robot, we build the robot, test it, program it. We go to competitions. This past year, we only had 1 competition. The year before that, we made it to state. I knew I wanted to do robotics just because I've loved building things for a very long time. I mainly like building vehicles with Lego. I still enjoy doing all that mechanical stuff. I've just moved up a lot in size to tractors. My grandpa lived on a farm and he loved working on tractors. He got me interested in restoring the tractors until he passed away in 2016. But then I continued his legacy and kept restoring tractors. On the farm, my grandpa used to have a Farmall M. That was his favorite tractor on the farm, so I knew I wanted to restore a Farmall M. The average person would walk in that barn where I got it and just say it was a piece of junk. The tires were very dry rotted, the front grille was beaten up a little bit, and the hood was in not very good condition. The tractor was no longer red, it was brown. We tore it down to the bare bones, so it was just the frame, transmission, and the engine. My mom found the Chevron Tractor Restoration Competition, and I became a finalist and was the youngest finalist they've ever had in that competition. I was not in the top 3, but I did get this belt buckle. At first, when I knew I wanted to restore a tractor, well, I thought I'd only restore 1 and then be done. With how much I enjoyed it, I knew I wanted to keep on restoring tractors. My name is Noah Roberts. I'm a sophomore at Dodgeland High School, and I restored a 1950 Farmall M tractor. And I'm this week's Fox 6 High School Hotshot.
Well, that is super neat, and Noah is already planning 2 more tractor restorations. He also plans to pursue engineering as a career, beginning with attending a summer program at MSOE. All right, we'll be right back.
Here's what's coming up this week. The Packers back at OTAs Tuesday, Wednesday Media Day, so full coverage, and then again Friday.
And the Brewers, like we said, welcome Craig Counsell to American Family Field on Monday. It's an afternoon game because of the holiday. And then they play 3 more after that before the White Sox come to town. So it's a Chicago week for the Brewers.
Meanwhile, the Milwaukee Admirals begin the Western Conference Finals Wednesday. They're in Palm Springs, California, taking on the Coachella Valley Firebirds. It is a best-of-7 series, so Milwaukee will be back home the following Tuesday.
Coachella Valley knocked the Admirals out last year, and I think has only lost one game so far this year in the playoffs. Very good team.
Very good team.
We know if it's a game 5, though, the Admirals should be taking
specialists. And have Lily there, too. She brings them home to wins. Thanks for spending your time with us. Enjoy the rest of your holiday.